This is the 8-9 combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones, and this is the Weekend Post-Mortem. Hello, mate. How are you?
How's it? I want to thank everyone for reaching out. So many, really hundreds of people were asking about my health and well-being. Some are truly concerned as well. I mean,
that's partly my fault, I must say, because I said when I was with Friday, we recorded that for early hours of Friday morning for me that you were in hospital, and what I didn't say was that you were literally in the process of checking out of hospital as we recorded, so that's why you're unavailable. Unfortunately, all I said was that you were in hospital. So I think everyone's assumed the worst. So I'm sorry for that.
Well, thank you to all the people who did reach out. It was very interesting to read all your messages and hear them and some of these DMs and stuff. So thanks. I'm doing well. I cannot vouch for my veracity right now or my sound mindness. But then again, people have said that even when I'm not on drugs, there could be a question. So we'll proceed as is.
We'll proceed. What I do know is that part of your convalescence has involved watching a whole lot more rugby than me. So I am thankful for that. But I'm thankful that you're fit and fitter and healthier than you were a few days ago, which I'm very, very glad to see. And our sincere thanks to Charlie Morgan for very much helping me steer the ship through the dissection of the Lions squad. And if you haven't been back and had a look at it and haven't had a look at it, make sure you do, because it was actually really, really good chat done only a few hours after the Lions squad was named in London on Thursday afternoon. And it was just a really, really good chat. I really enjoyed it. So it is
very good. And don't worry, guys, it's not the same old. The B word is not the big focus. And it's more about the shape. And this is a very interesting tour series. And, as we know, and I'm doing a little preview because I like previews, the injuries to Australian players can change the format and shape of a series in a second. But so could that also do for the Lions.
Absolutely.
And so it's very interesting if you build your thing around Kalen Doris being one of your first guys to write down, and suddenly he's not available. And you can see that in the naming of the loose forwards, there's a bit of a, so how are we playing? Is it Ben Earl? Is it, who are we doing?
Well, and it started already. There's already this weekend, I've seen a headline that says, and I can't think whether it was Ben Earl or Tom Curry went off early in their game, and now Owen Farrell is in line for a recall. Whoa, that was quick. How did we get there so quickly? So
great stuff.
That's what we've got. That's what we've got to look forward to over the next 6 weeks leading into the Lions series. We are back to the full leagues edition of the Weekend Post-Mortem, pulling out all the big results from all the big games in all the competitions around the world. There's a clean sweep of away teams in Super Rugby Pacific, some big scores and an upset in the ERC, a big day out in the Premierships, and we'll get through the top 14 in France, League One in Japan, and Major League Rugby in the States as well. You ready to go, mate? We're ready to get into this?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I can just think of words. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, just think of these words as well, because before we do get into the Weekend Post-Mortem, we need to tell the nice people why we would still love them to subscribe to the 8-9 combo. And I know we keep going on about this, but we are now north of 7,000 subscribers, and we cannot believe it even more than we couldn't believe it last week. It is blowing us away, honestly.
I mean, it's about time. I always believed that it would happen. So, listen, as I was hanging on,
trying to be humble in this part,
but that's there's one humble guy on this part. So, as I was hanging on to life, and I saw the tunnel, what kept me alive, even though it was the nurses urging me and pumping me and keeping me going, was I wanted to see what it felt like to get to 8,000. I just want to see if that validates me even more. I think if I can just get to that, then significance, Hegelian significance, will finally be mine, and I can stop this never-ending, insatiable desire for attention. So get us to 8,000, and maybe we'll, chill out.
And look at the current strike rate. We could be at 8,000 by Thursday. So, but look,
nice.
not that we're putting a time frame on it, but honestly, just
10,
thank you.
Let's go 10.
And look, if you are watching YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, then just hit the little red button down there in the corner, and you'll be all sorted. If you're listening to us via Spotify, via Apple Pods, any of the podcast platforms, then hit follow, hit subscribe, hit like, whatever it might be that you need to hit so you don't miss anything. Straight into this, mate. Super Rugby round 13 it was. Only 4 games this weekend. The Blues are back into the top 6 with in earnest with their big win in Suva. Tom Liner, Joseph Suaalii, and the Tars season. were the main casualties out of Queensland's win over New South Wales in Sydney. The Chiefs put down 25 unanswered points in the second half in Christchurch to remove any remaining doubt as to who are the competition favourites. And then the Brumbies spoiled the Western Forces 20-year celebrations with a bonus point win to jump into the top two. It was an interesting win of Super Rugby, weekend of Super Rugby.
That was kind of sad. I watched all that, and I watched the Western Australian tiers and the processions and lines of all players, and that was good fun. And then the match started, and it just kind of ground down into a weird, not exciting thing. I mean, I know it was good for you. I just extracted a key stat from every one of these matches, I think. And my key stat there was the Brumbies went on a carrying and passing carnival. 218 carries, 258 passes, depending on which database you look at. But only 6 line breaks from all that effort. So it was a kind of a weird old night where the guys just kept running into walls. And all credit to the Brumbies. They never got tired of it. They just kept going.
Well, so the Brumbies were full of credit for the Force because the Force made 311 tackles and only missed 17. And Stephen Larkham used that exact word you did. He said it was like running into a blue wall all night. So
I'd be a worry a little bit. You'd still rather be the Brumbies than the Reds right now, because I think what's working for the Brumbies is replicable. But you'd also be a bit worried about the effort that it's taking to create those line breaks.
Yeah.
And you'd probably want to get some stuff from the kick. And so that, to my point there, the Crusaders and the Chiefs were full of kicks, both of them getting around 30 kicks, and they were so clever about manipulating each other. It was a weird match, though. Because it was 19 in a row and then 35 in a row. And it just, but the idea of using kicks and falling in love with kicking football rugby, because it's the way you can open up things. There was some genius stuff there. Crusaders were vying with the Force, 209 tackles by the Crusaders. But it was hard work. And in the end, I feel like the Chiefs have clearly established something here, which is they've got to be viewed as
there's no question. There's no question at all. Just want to go back to the Brumbies for a second. They will be without Noah Lolosio, I would suggest, this week and maybe for a few weeks. He's been cleared of any major spinal injuries from that really nasty. Looked like he was folded and then crushed, basically. And so there was certainly concerns about possible neck fracture, but that's been all cleared, and I believe he has travelled back to Canberra with the Force with the Brumbies on Sunday, which is good news. So yeah, they'll be just the Reds will be without Liner, New South Wales will be without Suoli for a few weeks. So there's actually key players in a few teams now will be out of action for a few weeks, which is actually a little bit concerning for all three of those Australian teams.
Well, the Reds lost line out, but they got their line out. Finally, hello, line out 12-0. 12 attempted, 12 completed.
And their maul was as good as it has been all year, and that's how they scored half their tries.
Been the worst line out in the world.
Yes,
and they are actually now showing us that was a fixable problem. It's, just in time. Very interesting stat there was 9 line breaks for the Reds, 1 for the Waratahs.
Yeah.
And that will get you in trouble. The other thing is, 4 out of 5 coaches in the Reds coaching box, way too excited. Like, calm down, guys. Seriously. Like, don't do bench presses during the game. Calm down.
Yeah. The Waratahs were worrying. I'm not sure they can bounce back from this. That was
they're done, no? I mean, pretty much. Mathematically even, or no?
Questions about notice. Yeah, look, they can still get there. Maximum points suggest they can still get there.
But weird things have to happen, like that are not going to happen.
They do have a game in hand, or have they had their 2 buys?
Well, we could solve that
question. No, they've had their 2 buys, so they have got a game in hand. So they can mathematically get there.
Very tough road. Speaking of a team that didn't look so good in the beginning of the year and is just kind of muscled up, the Blues was returning to something. And so my key stat is 102 out of 104 rucks completed, 6 of 6 mauls, and really no smiles by Vern Cotter. So we're still looking for that.
In fact, he was still damn angry at halftime, wasn't he? So yeah. Look, it's funny. A few weeks ago, I said, I feel like we can talk. I feel like we can put a line through them. They're not going to be like the Crusaders last year, where we said, are they done yet? Are they done yet? Turns out they are.
And they got playoff type rugby, so I wouldn't write them off.
No, exactly right. Damien McKenzie was just exceptional for the Chiefs, wasn't he? It was like he got to halftime and he went, "Nah, bugger this. I can do something about this," and he just did.
Yeah, there's tidal waves in rugby. That was interesting to watch.
Yeah.
My bleary-eyed delirium with drugs. I was just like, how can it be so one way and then so one way? And
is this me or is this the compression sleeve talking?
Yeah. I did see that Scooter Barrett banged over for a try. It could have been double movement, though. Possibly was. But he got it was the first try of the season for him. So there's all these kind of weird anomalies where Tom Wright, who knew that he hadn't scored a try?
Tom Wright still hasn't scored a try. Tom Hooper scored a try in Perth. Not just a try, his first Super Rugby try.
Yeah.
In all of Super Rugby. I think he's got one test try. So that's 2 professional tries he now has.
It's a pretty good interview. I watched his interview and he was actually quite funny.
Hoops, he's good value.
Didn't know he was, yeah.
He's good value. He is really good value. So there's 4 rounds to go there. We'll go through the ladder and a few more details in middle of the week when we go through another great rugby chat with someone that we're 95% sure of, but I'm not quite confident enough to say who it is. It's round 17 of the ERC. And I mean, the Sharks are comfortable in the top 4 now after that win over Ospreys at the top of the weekend. Munster and the Stormers, I think, have consolidated their playoff spots. The Bulls have entered the top 2 after their comfortable win over Cardiff at Loftus. And then Glasgow, as we've mentioned, that they've been dented by that 33-7 thumping in Treviso to Benetton. Benetton led that 33-0 in the 63rd minute, and that was when Glasgow scored their 1 try of the game.
Yeah, it was a cool weekend in the
That's paddling.
I have key stats for each game.
Please do.
Coaching insight. So the Sharks beat 35 Ospreys defenders. The Sharks have not gone about the business in 2025 as a razzle-dazzle team. They're kind of grind down, win by 1 or 2. That's a bit ominous going into the finals, because if the Sharks starting to do that, there's enough names on that team sheet that you'd worry. Munster and Benetton win with scant territory. Munster had 43% of territory and won quite comfortably. And Benetton, who is not a bad team, and as we can write them off at our peril, they upset Glasgow with 37% possession, 38% territory. There's a problem with Glasgow, and it's like some losses can gut you, some losses can motivate you. The Chiefs had an interesting story where Clayton McMillan inspired his players post Kane's loss he turned off all the speakers inside the locker room and forced his players to listen to the Hurricanes sing their song, and it motivated them. So there's a way you can turn a loss into galvanize your team. So Glasgow clearly hasn't found that, because since they got toweled and mullered by Leinster, there's been this very weird kind of give up about them, and so that's a worry. Bulls, the Bulls beat Cardiff with 21 offloads, and my friend and your friend Mvia posed at the press conference to Jake, and he even said, Harry asked me to ask you this. That way, if it was a bad question, he could say it was Harry's fault.
He could blame you.
But I posted it on X. You can see the entire exchange. And he said 3 times I was spot on. And what I was saying was that the Bulls had tweaked their red zone attack headed into the playoffs. I mean, Jake said it's actually more like, tailor-made for each one. But it's interesting, as some of these teams that always knew, like the Chiefs, for example, they always knew the way to get the playoffs. Have they held a few things back, and then now they're unveiling? I think that's super interesting. Whereas
it is.
Some teams are just clawing to get in and they don't care, right?
No. Just tell me those territory possession stats for Benetton again.
Benetton only had 37% of the field and 38% of the ball.
That's basically exactly the same as what the Force had in Perth.
Yeah, and so interesting game we have in that it could look very different on the scoreboard. And Glasgow did a lot of running into blind alleys. There was a lot of action, a lot of motion without action. And that's the thing about stats. You can pad a lot of your stats. If you keep getting turned over on the 5th carry, the 5th phase, your stats look wonderful, but then go to the
trouble. So Glasgow in the last month have lost 33-7 to Benetton. They've lost 26-19 to the Bulls at home. They beat Zebre in Parma, and then lost to Leinster 52-0 in that Champions Cup quarterfinal. So that's not a whole lot to write home for in the last in the last little bit there. So that's, I mean, there's concerns there, isn't there?
Yeah, they've lost their place to the Bulls in the log,
Yes.
and they're also staring down the possibility of losing it to the Sharks. That might really limp, and the South African teams might not play each other until the semis.
Yeah, so they're only a point clear of the Sharks, who are in fourth, and yes, the Bulls have jumped ahead of them into second spot. So that's it's interesting. It's always getting interesting.
I know you want to talk about my little baby Stormers who just messed up the Dragons.
I wasn't going to, but sure.
The key stat here is only 3 penalties conceded. But interestingly,
is that right?
One of the softest yellow cards you'll ever see. So do me a favor, everyone, go and see on the 100th match of Damien Willemse, cold, wet in the Cape right now. And so you have all these like long-suffering fans crowding to see Damien Willemse get his 100th, only 26 years old.
Yeah.
And he has a wonderful team try, finished it off. It's brilliant. It's a worldie. And then Latimo, in Italian accent, because he's Italian, talks to the Italian ref, and they say, but the holdamento, maledetto, there might have been something.
Uno momento.
They go back to a harmless ruck where the calmest, meekest, mildest lock in South African rugby, Salman Murat, has done a gecko roll. It's not a croc roll because that would require too much force and animosity. He just basically hugged a guy and said, could you sit down with me and talk for a while? And they wiped it off. It was stupid. And what I would say to that is, read the room, man. It's a 100th game. The result's only going one way. It's not that big a deal. Let it go.
Yeah, that's a bit curious, isn't it? Anyway, it was round 16 of the Premiership. Leicester Tigers have taken Sale's top 2 spot with that 10-point win at Welford Road. Saracens ran in 11 tries to thump Newcastle, and they're now equal with Sale on points, but have 1 fewer win. Bristol beat a vastly understrength Bath pretty comfortably in their big day out in Cardiff. Harlequins beat Gloucester by 19 at Twickenham, which dents Gloucester's faint finals hopes. Exeter Northampton's still to play there yet. So I got back to Leicester and Sale. I watched Bristol and Bath live. That actually put me to sleep. But Leicester Sale was actually really good game.
Yeah,
really good game. We've talked about setting the wet sail, but man, I don't think I'd want to be playing. I mean, there's only 2 weeks in the Premiership left, maybe 3 weeks. I don't think I'd be wanting to play Leicester on the way home now.
Yeah, building. I did text Michael Checker, friend of the pod, and asked him if he thought that they were playoff ready. And what he said, that need to be a little more ruthless, which I love.
Yeah.
And what Checker was referring to was that it seemed like the team has gelled and all, but there was a few things where they dropped off and Sale took full advantage. To be fair, there's not a hotter team in the Prem than the Saints and Sale. So to see them off quite comfortably in the end, Andre Pollard, I thought, had a magisterial performance where you saw his quality. Julio Montoya, obviously great leader from the front.
Yeah.
Hanno Liebenberg. The team is pretty much stacked, and it plays like Czech's Waratahs.
It played like it. Yeah.
It plays like Czech's Waratahs that won Super Rugby, that kind of hard-nosed,
really physical,
give no quarter. And I think they're going to be trouble in the little tiny little playoffs that the Prem does. So I don't know who wants to play them. I wouldn't want to play them. They look ruthless to me.
They're straight semi-finals.
Yeah, they're just
is that right?
That's it. Yeah,
just 1v4, 2v3. Yeah, right. So at the moment, Bristol have jumped to third. I wouldn't want to be going to Welford Road at the moment. They just look really, really ominous, the Tigers.
It's an interesting ground too, because you're right on top of. It's one of those great old English rugby pitches where the patrons, there's a lot of standing area as well. They're right on top of you. I mean, you could talk to the guy, and get banter back and forth.
Same as the Rec in Bath. It feels like there's maybe 15 meters from the sideline to the road behind the grandstand.
With very right small in-goal areas too. So you have to really get it down. And Tyrone Green for the Quins didn't do it this weekend and got found out. So guys, when you get over the try line, just score the try.
Just put the ball down. Yeah. So Saracens, I mentioned, equal with Sale. Sale have got 10 wins, 49 points, 56 points plus and minus, points differential. Saracens have 9 wins and 49 points, but their plus minus is 34. So they're not far behind Saracens. Not far behind Sale. So it'll be I think they're probably the one team that have a chance of getting back in. Gloucester basically another win behind that. So I'm not sure about that. Round 23 of the top 14 started in slightly somber news. The Cast Claremont game was postponed after the tragic death of Fijian 7-star Olympic silver medalist Josiah Rasungwe, who was tragically killed in a level crossing accident driving to training on Thursday. So that game wasn't played. The 4 Saturday games were won by no more than 2 points. Racing and Bayonne drew 24 all, and that was a bit mad in itself because excuse me, I beg your pardon. Bayonne Racing kicked a penalty goal in the 79th minute to draw level to make it 24 all. So that was all a bit mad. And then after 4 really close games, then Toulouse and Toulon. Toulouse led Toulon 14-13 at half-time. There was a try and penalty goal each to make it 19-16 at the 53rd minute. And then Toulouse ran in 5 tries and 31 points to absolutely run away with it, 50 points to 9-16 or whatever it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of debates.
It was close until it wasn't.
A lot of debates about red cards, but let me just tell you one thing, and you'll like this in the 8-9 combo. You cannot get a red card to your 9. And it is, especially when Baptiste Serrand runs too long and is such a great game manager. Losing him to 2 yellows became a red. It killed Toulon up until that second. The game was in the balance. And let me just tell you something also that was really ironic. Baptiste Serrand is having to say, excuse me, ref, hold on a second before I can talk to you, because he was getting every part of his body mopped up from the blood because Baptiste Serrand was turned upside down and slammed into the turf, and that was considered just a penalty.
Oh, wow.
And every part of his face was gone, and then he had to wait, and then the ref delivered the news. Oh, by the way, on this other succeeding play, which was minor, but your second yellow, you're gone. And Baptiste Serrand, in the most ironic gesture ever, goes and shakes the hand of the referee, just says, merci, monsieur. But what scenes in Marseille?
That's contempt, isn't it?
It was. It was.
Thank you, sir.
Wild to watch. I know that. So two matches happened this weekend. There were neutral sites, one in Cardiff and then this one in Marseille. But Toulon versus Toulouse in Marseille was magic. It was a full stadium. They did all the lights off, the disco effect. It was good fun. But no, I mean, Toulouse is still right there. I guess they're just one step behind Bordeaux now. But I think in the pecking order, you can clearly say that Toulon is the third one. Probably no one could have hung with them as much as they did with all the action and the cards and so forth. Yeah, good game to watch.
It's put a real. I mean, Toulon, Bordeaux have got a game in hand. They play Montpellier still to come this weekend. So if they win that,
they're going for the double.
There could be which of course they are. There could be a real gap on Toulon in third, just as there is, a bit of a gap between Toulouse and Bordeaux as well. You mentioned games at neutral venues. And we didn't really mention this. So Bristol played Bath, hosted Bath in Cardiff under the roof. So all the Welsh teams are in South Africa at the moment. Bristol take a West Country derby to Cardiff, and they got 50,000 people there. And I saw more than a few tweets and posts and things over the weekend from Welsh rugby supporters saying, look at this. Turns out we do actually like the Premiership. Why don't we play the Premiership a little bit more? And they were basically saying, here's your proof.
Yeah, no, it was fun to see that. I mean, there's no question that Wales is a rugby-loving place. And also in the IRC, I'll have to say that the clubs didn't do that badly. But like with most of rugby, if your national team is putrid and cannot win, it just flows down. No matter what you think and how much you believe in grassroots,
the perception sticks. Yeah, it does. And we saw it. We saw it in Australia. We've seen it in Australia for the last 10 years probably. So yeah, that all makes sense. It was the final round of League One in Japan on the weekend. Now I had pegged for you the Arasu D-Rocks v Mitsubishi Dynaboars Friday night game as the game of the week. And I said to you that Mitsubishi needed to win that in order to stay clear of the relegation zone. They did not win that, which put them in relegation danger. They were only saved by Toyota for Blitz getting absolutely thumped by the Kubota Spears to finish in the bottom three. So, and otherwise it was basically top teams playing the bottom teams. The top six has been sorted for weeks. There's qualifying finals on next weekend. The relegation games fit in here somewhere, and I'll try and get my head around that by the next episode and go through that. I know Contetsu Liners have topped Division 2, so that's Quade Cooper, Will Genia's team. So they'll play either the D-Rocks or Honda Heat. I'm not quite sure. But, I mean, the Dynaboars had one job. Rights who have barely won a game all year, and they chose to win it now. Talk about going out with a bang. They are going to be playing in the relegation game too, the D-Rocks there. So, as I say, qualifying finals next weekend. And relegation finals to come in there, relegation games to go in there as well somewhere, which I will work out. It's round 13 of Major League Rugby. There's actually still 2 games to come here on Monday and Tuesday. We're in this funny little period of Major League Rugby where they've tried to fit 3 rounds into the last 2 weeks. That's what's happened, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's actually kind of worked out. There was a Thursday or Wednesday match. So
there's been games played basically every day for the last 2 weeks. It feels like it's been awfully hard to work out what's in what round. But the crux of it is that New England are now 7 points clear in the Eastern Conference with that 10-point win over Chicago Hounds, 27-17. And the goddamn Houston Sabercats have gone to the top of the Western Conference after that 17-point win over San Diego.
The lines have been drawn. New England and Houston to the top.
Yes, they've come good, it feels like.
They're also doing kind of a high carry, short pass, play through you kind of blues approach. So we'll see how it works. It's attritional.
Yeah, right, no doubt. There's 4 rounds to play, I think, in Major League Rugby before we get into. So I think they're in a similar sort of time frame to Super Rugby, and I think that's right. I think we're there, mate. Anything else to wrap up this weekend?
More drugs. Drugs are good. All the kids out there, don't listen to your parents. But it's good to be back. Thanks for missing me, everyone.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome. That then is the Weekend Post-Mortem. Behind us, Harry and I remain on the socials and in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones at BMC Sport. You can tell us what you think and what you thought of this weekend's results and their implications for finals and things like that by finding and following the 8-9 Combo on Twitter, on YouTube, on Blue Sky as well. You can have your say right here on the 8-9 YouTube channel. You can leave a comment as well if you're listening on Spotify, and it's great to see some of them rolling in the last few weeks. But wherever you are, please share us, please review us, please leave us a rating, whatever you can. It all helps. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby podcast. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones. He needs to take his meds, and we will be back in your ears in just a few days' time with another great rugby chat.
Come, play with us.